It's the last Friday of April already. Holy cow, where has the month gone? We are so glad that you have joined us at Rural Community Solutions, where we help you design family-friendly, youth-centered places that attract the people you want to have in your community because they love the way it feels in your community. So I'm Kim Spillers.
And I'm Frank Spillers. And with Rural Community Solutions, it's all about the environment that you set for people to succeed within your community. And in that environment, it's all about how you create your startup community that supports entrepreneurs. So an entrepreneurial ecosystem can help those entrepreneurs grow. So it's all about what is that environment that attracts people to want to live, work, and play in your community, or just, be there. But since people are choosing where they live, we focus on the entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial thinking of a community that will attract those folks. So really, today, we have a very exciting show because we've got Jay Cooper is in the house, and Jay is an entrepreneurial ecosystem. He's a entrepreneur extraordinaire is what I'm going to call him. Yes. And we met Jay last weekend when we were mentors with Startup Weekend Southwest Iowa, which was your first virtual event for Startup Weekend. And so, Jay, we're really happy to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Oh, it's just so exciting. We could go in a bunch of different directions from what we've learned of your interests and your business development and such. Mm-hmm. Let's just kind of start at
Well, that reminds me, you want to stay towards the show because we're going to be talking about how to find the best hard cider.
Yeah,
so
well,
just a little teaser, so hang around.
Yeah, for those of you watching and listening, I guess that's that carrot, that drinkable carrot that's hanging out there. So let's just start. I think entrepreneurship is the buzzword, but that's really kind of a big word for people, and it might mean a whole bunch of different things. Let's just kind of start down with some simple definitions of entrepreneurship and startup communities from your frame of mind.
Sure. So entrepreneurship really can include anything from, your traditional tech startups. You see all these apps that you've got on your phone, your Uber and Lyft and all the different scooter things that were really popular a couple of years ago. You've got those sort of things to your product things. Think, for example, there's one called Sphero, which are those little kind of remote controlled. You download an app, kind of control a little robot thing. I know they licensed with Disney to do a little Star Wars droid for a while.
Really?
So you've got that sort of stuff. You've got small business owners, restaurateurs, really anyone who is willing to put themselves out there and just create a business to make their community better falls under that banner of entrepreneurship as part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yeah, we always say that entrepreneurship is really about an attitude. It's an attitude of how people can think independently, but also think creatively, but think as a team, because it's really about Startup Weekend. Is how can a single entrepreneur become part of a team that's becoming bigger than what they could do just by themselves. And that was our first experience with Startup Weekend, which kind of gave me a paradigm shift of really what the Startup Weekend was all about. And so I was really happy to learn from the inside out of how that happens and looking at. So explain just a little bit about the Startup Weekend. Where did it start? How do people get involved? And what's kind of the 300,000 foot view?
Sure. So Startup Weekend, I think it's been around for something like 13, 14 years.
Really? It's that long?
It has been around for a long time. Since
I didn't realize that.
08, 09, I think is roughly when it started. I was not involved at that point. But here in Iowa, I believe the first one was a little later than that, probably 2012. Started in, the larger urban areas. So I think Des Moines may have had either Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or Iowa City. One of the three had the first one. But they've had local ones in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Ames, Cedar Falls. They may have had them elsewhere, but Not sure. But anyway.
Outside of Iowa, gosh.
Yeah, and then, of course, outside of Iowa, now, of course, started in the coast, made its way to the Midwest. And essentially what a startup weekend is, we had the version we had this weekend, which is the online version, and we compressed it further than the usual startup weekend. So a normal startup weekend, the ones that, have been going on for 12, 13 years, you have 54 hours. Essentially, you have from Friday evening to your pitch competition on Sunday evening. And so in that 54-hour span, you're essentially supposed to come up with, you've got someone with an idea, they form a team, they work out all the details, do the customer discovery, do all the research they need to do in order to put together a pitch deck for a group of experts who end up judging this thing. What we did this past weekend, we changed a couple things. So instead of the in-person where you're working on teams at tables and you've got snacks and you're doing stuff the whole time in person, we took that online just because you have to right now with the way the pandemic is. And we decided, okay, who wants to sit at a computer all the way from Friday evening all the way to Sunday evening? That's too much. So we decided to squish that even further and just have it 26 hours from Friday evening until later on Saturday evening. Same experience, same order of stuff, but online instead of in person.
And so how this new type of format, how'd it go?
Yeah, because you've done in person. We've only thought about it, and so we're anxious to learn.
Yeah, and it's really still a learning process with us. Since this was my second online one. The Techstars organization that runs Startup Weekend that we license it from, they had a nationwide online version, but they did the full 54 hours, which as a participant, that felt like a little bit of a slog having to sit the whole time. But I feel like our 26-hour version went incredibly well. We had about 20 really interested, really engaged people participating. We ended up with 2 different teams. We wish we could have made them both first place, but it was a very close vote. We had 5 judges, and it was a 3-2 vote based on first and second place. So they both did exceptionally well, and I'm really hoping they both keep going. But yeah, we felt like it went well. We are actually later this afternoon having a meeting just to kind of go through. It's like, what do we think worked? What did we think not worked? If we want to do this again in the future, which hopefully, cross your fingers, we're going to have another online statewide startup weekend again. Even post-pandemic, it's still a fun experience. But yeah, feel like for the first time, it felt like it was a great experience. And I feel like it feels like everyone got something out of the weekend.
Well, you guys did a remarkable job of keeping things going. And I mean, for being online for a full about 27 hours, because you were on, before and after on that, but keeping it going. And then you actually opened it about a week before so people could generate those ideas, which I thought was genius. And so they could really start making those connections and networking, which might be a benefit even kind of as you do a hybrid for something going forward for Startup Weekend, having those connections online first.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It was definitely something that helped, especially since we were compressing that. So during a normal full-length Startup Weekend, a lot of the stuff that we were doing on Discord, that networking, that idea generation, that sort of thing, that always happens on Friday when everyone gets kind of crunched together, maybe with a few drinks in their hands and some food and that sort of thing. That's usually when that happens during a live event. Because we didn't have that, we're like, okay, how can we mix this up and get people actually talking to each other before we get this thing going? And we, as a team, we came up with the idea, okay, let's open up our Discord server, our platform that people use to communicate with each other. Let's open that up on Monday instead of waiting until Friday to just start opening everything up. So I feel like we got really good ideas generating and some great interaction between people on that platform.
When we have thought about doing this, we've wanted to use high schoolers. Did you have any sense? We just thought it would be fun to lock down kids in a school. And, just have a few chaperones, someplace that they're familiar, someplace they're comfortable, bring in some, business owners from the community and things like that. Did you get any kind of sense online what kind of age group we were working with last weekend?
So I believe we were working with folks maybe college age all the way up to maybe into their 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
So, a good age range. I don't believe we had any high school students, but in the past, in-person ones, we actually have had high school students participate at Startup Weekend Iowa City. The winning team from 2018 actually was run by 2 high school students.
Nice.
So they were competing against, some seasoned entrepreneurs in the group.
Right.
So, age is not an issue with this. It's good ideas. It's making those ideas real during the course of a weekend.
Well, and it's all about not bringing an initial startup business to the platform. It's about creating the business from ground zero throughout the weekend, right?
Right. Yeah, we explicitly say no ideas you've been working on. This everyone has to start at the exact same starting point with this,
which I think is phenomenal. So,
it is.
So in your past history, or since 2012, when you've been involved, or Iowa's been involved, can you think of maybe some popular businesses that people might know right now that have come out of a startup community event?
So I know the event they had in Ames, it was 2014 or 2015. It's been a few years ago. There are actually a couple of companies out of that startup weekend, and for the life of me, I can't think of the names, but they came out of that weekend and raised money, and they are still part of the ecosystem there. So a lot of these things happen. My personal experience, Iowa City the startup weekend in Iowa City in 2015, I'm actually still working on an idea with a co-founder from that. We've pivoted several times, but we're still plugging away at the idea. And it was called Sexy Life at the startup event. Then we pivoted to Bonding Box because we were finding that the name was preventing us from moving in certain ways. So we thought, okay,
I imagine
we're good with changing the name. Worked on that for a while, and now we have actually pivoted again, and we're working on, rather than curating boxes for at-home date nights, we're moving over toward a type of card game. It's similar, same vein as some games like Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples that help people generate date ideas. Essentially, you're matching one deck of cards to another deck of cards, like Apples to Apples. You're trying to come up with the best combinations, and we're hoping that the couples that are playing these games are able to take these combinations and say, okay, we had going on a hike and picnic. How can we make this into a reality? And so my partner on that project actually is a game designer, and we realized we don't have the passion to keep curating these boxes. That's not where our interests lie. It's creating games and playing fun games and getting those ideas out to people.
So that one, is that a board game then, or did it move out of board game and onto digital? Where is it?
So we are currently it was a physical deck of cards we came up with, and we actually are digitizing it to test it out with people we know and some other folks, and we're planning to keep both the physical and the digital, just in case people just want the digital version or just want the physical version. But we're doing some play testing now to see if it actually works with people other than just our core group of friends, which is what you have to do during startup development. You have to, you've got your core group, and they're basically never going to tell you no. They're like, yeah, this is great. You should do this. You've got to.
What can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, it's like So you have to get outside that core group. You've got to go out 2 or 3 layers and say, okay, how well are we doing the further away from our core group that we get? So we're kind of in that stage right now, but hoping later this year to have the thing launched and see how our latest pivot goes.
Well, and that is one thing about entrepreneurship, is that just because you have an idea, you need to be in it for the long haul, because it may have a number of iterations before you finally say, oh, that's it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
that
And
kind of where you're
being that
going.
entrepreneur, I'm going to encourage you to really look at, say, rural communities, because this can be a card game for new people in a community to get to know the community, get to
That's a
know
great idea.
people better. And in a lot of communities, there's the
Like
professional young people's organizations and stuff, and they're trying to get to know each other, starting to network together, and maybe not go on dates, but how do we break that ice for people to get to know the community and engage more within the community? So I can see a whole bunch of adaptations for this game of how you can I'm not going to give all the ideas over the air, because I'll talk to you about some of these off camera here, because it's just
okay, well, we need to move on.
Yeah.
'Cause otherwise
This is entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly. That's like, you hear something and you think, oh, that would work here, or some other variation of it, and that's the wonderful
So
thing.
not only the bonding box that you're working on, but also, and here's the carrot that we laid out there, the drinkable carrot. Can you talk about the passion and talk about the development of Cider Finder?
Yes. So another startup weekend success story. This one actually was one from 2017, where I participated, had some friends down in Decatur, Illinois, who were wanting to run a startup weekend for their community, and they're trying to get their startup community engaged. So I thought, let's go down there. I'll participate. Maybe I'll join a team, whatever. So I got up, actually pitched an idea about being able to find whatever beer I want from my couch. So I didn't have to leave the house and get to a bar that I like, and like, they're out of the one I like. And so through customer discovery, realized, the beer app thing, that's saturated. That's done. What isn't being served here? And thought, well, why not cider? Nobody seems to do anything for cider. So we looked into it and saw, no, nobody's doing anything. Like, why is no one doing anything? You've got folks with celiac, gluten intolerances, people that just don't like beer, that want something else at the bar. So decided to start developing this app, still in development right now, and essentially connecting people to the cider they love. So if you're on a trip and you want to find new cider that you've never had. So say you're in New England or you're out in California and you're like, okay, I don't know any of the makers out here. Where can I find their tap rooms? Where can I find their stuff? This app is going to be able to help you. So yet another startup weekend, something that came out of it that I'm still working on right now.
That's just awesome. So do you have a team who's working with you on Cider Finder, or is this really a Jay Cooper thing?
It's just me right now.
Good for you.
So since, I love cider and I love coding, I've been doing web apps for years and years now. And it's something I do essentially to keep funding the cider is building web apps for other people. I thought, take this, make it mobile friendly, and then you put a little wrapper around it, makes your phone think it's an app, and poof, you'll have an easy minimum viable product app. Let's try that, see how much traction I get off of it. I've been going over the last few years, been going to trade shows. So I'm meeting with both cider makers and cider enthusiasts, and they're both like, whoa, why has no one done this yet? So that kind of interest and the number of emails that I've gotten of people that want to sign up for the beta test, I think I'm onto something. So right now the team is just me, but once that revenue starts coming in, definitely going to start offloading some of the coding part of it to an engineer that really loves doing it more than I do, and I'll take on the marketing and the going to events and handing out the stickers and that sort of stuff to get people signed up.
Well, and going to sample the cider too.
Yes.
I mean,
That's
If you need,
we'll have a tasting out
if
here.
you need some help, I'm good. So that's that's entrepreneurship, and that's where startup weekends really come together, because people can match their passions and interests together with trying to make some money out of it and trying to generate that revenue. And so as we say, the line of entrepreneurship is, you look at a problem, which is really an opportunity for an entrepreneur. They figure out a solution, then they learn how to monetize that.
Right.
and get investors. And that's where Startup Weekend and ecosystem builders and everything comes together to
Right.
really start to build that entrepreneurial economy within a community. Now, we focus a lot on rural America and rural communities. Can you give some examples? Because we'll have conversations with you again about how we're taking this out into rural America. But can you give some examples of how rural America has responded to startup communities, or has this been mainly a focus on metro areas for now?
So it's been kind of a top down. It started in the larger ecosystems, so San Francisco, New York, Boston, Seattle. But over the past decade and a half, as these programs have developed, like Startup Weekend, it's moving to smaller and smaller communities. And personally, it's my hope that communities even smaller than Iowa City or Ames or Cedar Falls are able to take some of these, get enough energy around, like where you are out in Western Iowa, find a high school full of kids that maybe 30 of them want to stick around for a weekend, especially if you're providing pizza and pop and cookies and that sort of thing for them to stick around, and get those ideas generated and show them that that entrepreneurship is not this big scary thing. You don't have to have the next Uber in your brain and try to make it and try to raise it. It all has to start from the same point. You have to see if your problem that you're having has a solution. If it doesn't have a solution, what kind of solution would you create, and would other people pay for that solution? And really, that's what we're trying to teach through Startup Weekends. So it's completely applicable to any size community.
Yeah, anybody. It doesn't matter where you live. People have ideas.
Well, and it just showcases, even in rural areas, and it's going to get better over the next 5 years or so as broadband starts to really expand into having everybody have access to broadband. But in Iowa, I mean, we have more independent telephone companies than any other state in the country, and they have broadband and fiber to the home. So it's really about how can we get a conglomerate of high schools to maybe even get some teams going together to showcase broadband capabilities in a small rural community. I mean, we could do a Startup Weekend. We have the capabilities in a town of 120 that has fiber to the home, that we could do a Startup Weekend in their community center, that's a firehouse converted to a community center that has plenty of room for, you could have 30 teams going and in there, but in a town of 120. So it's looking at your capabilities and then organizing it, right? And bringing in pizza. I mean, what's your motivation behind there? On that, and so what drawed you? Let me do. She's my editor, by the way.
I'm going.
So what drew you? What drew you to entrepreneurship? But then what drew you to you run 1 million cups in Iowa City.
That's right.
You're an ecosystem builder. You a volunteer with Startup Weekend. What drew you to build entrepreneurship as you have learned it?
I mean, really, it's a combination of stuff. So there were a couple of people I worked with on a project called, we like numbers for some reason. 1 million cups. This project was called the 10,000 Hours Show, and was run by two people, Amanda West, who helped start a lot of the startup stuff here in Eastern Iowa, and Andy Stoll, who's now with the Kauffman Foundation down in Kansas City. And I saw they were doing this entrepreneurship stuff, and this it was just after my oldest kiddo, who's now 9, after she was born, and I was just like, doing the stay-at-home dad thing is fun, but I would like to be more than just a stay-at-home dad. So what is this entrepreneurship? What is this? And so I started going to the 1 Million Cups event here in Iowa City and seeing, what is this all about? And seeing people pitch, or at 1MC, we call them presentations. They're not pitches, but it's seeing these people do the presentations about their business, starting to read up on, what goes into starting a business, what goes into, running an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and seeing that, it's taken all the things that I used to do for the 10,000 hour show in college. So a lot of organizing community events, getting volunteers to help out with certain things. It's all the things I really love doing, just that I would volunteer to do in undergrad and in grad school, and think, how can I apply this to the community? And so, that's kind of what drew me to entrepreneurship, was seeing friends of mine really enjoying it, really getting things going, and then learning, I can do this. I'm perfectly capable of doing this. I have the skill set already. Why don't I see what I can do to make my community better? And so that's how I got into it. And 7 years later, I'm running half of this stuff, and it's been an interesting journey.
Well, and so the people who are listening to you are thinking, okay, so does it help pay the bills?
Not really.
Okay.
But,
Well, and
not at
that's
first.
fair, and that's something that you have to think about.
Yeah,
You're thinking where this idea might go.
Yeah, so it's not, it gradually increase, your revenue gradually increases. It's not one of those things where it's lightning bolt and you're making $1 million a week. I'm into a lot of the things like Startup Weekend, 1 Million Cups, that sort of thing, just because I want to leave my community better than I found it.
Yes.
That's why I love those sort of things. That's why I want those sort of events to keep happening here in Iowa. I want the state to be in a better place than it was before I did anything.
Right.
It's the other, flip side of it, developing Cider Finder, developing Bonding Box, that sort of thing. That's what eventually will help fund some of this stuff and that sort of thing. But, and that's why I do I do freelance web development, video production. Is those are the sort of things that are paying the bills while these other things are developing. So, right now, no, it's not a moneymaker, but and a lot of these community events really aren't ever going to be moneymakers, but they need to exist in order for the community to be stronger.
Exactly. And in our house, what we are we say quite often is that it's not helping yet.
Right.
Maybe not yet, but it will.
But that's that's an important point.
It is.
One, as an entrepreneur, you give back to the community that's helping you and supporting you, and that's really foundational for entrepreneurship, economic development. Is they give back to the community because they want to make their community stronger, because ultimately it'll make their business stronger. So it's really a cycle of strength that you're looking at. And you are an excellent example of how you can be supportive of home life and supportive and how that can help have a home life balance, work life balance, really, within your family. And it does, it's not for everybody, but it does work for a lot of people. How have you found working out of your home?
Well, as my kids have gotten older, it has gotten easier. So, I noticed with both of them, between about the ages of 18 months and about 3 years, it was always the most difficult because they just need the most attention at that point. Right. So it was a lot of working late into the evening, working on weekends when my wife is home, that sort of thing, having grandparents come and help out. But they're both finally at the age now where they just want to do their own thing during the day, which, as long as I keep my door open, and if they have an emergency, we deal with it, or that sort of thing. We take a break for lunch, take a break for dinner, that sort of thing. But honestly, this past year, it's been amazing. They've just been doing their own thing. My older one, my 9-year-old, is in 3rd grade, so she's at school 5 days a week now, and my younger one starts kindergarten in the fall, and so she's just kind of doing her own thing. She's got her playhouse, and she's got her own little world going. And, I'm not, focused on the computer for like 4 hours at a time. I try to do, there's a time management trick called Pomodoro. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, where you break it up where it's like you work for 50 minutes and then you take a 10-minute break. Work for another 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. And that seems to be the perfect amount of time. Get something decent done and then take a break, see how she's doing. If she needs something, we deal with it then. And then I get back into my thing for 50 minutes. And then, if I'm coding something where I do need to be focused for 2 or 3 hours at a time, just do it after they're in bed, or do it on the weekend. I'll do it on Sunday afternoon when my wife is home. So it actually, it's as long as you have time management skills down, you're good. You'll be good.
Yeah, and that 50-minute mark is that's why high school students in high schools break their classes up into 50-minute, between 45 and 50-minute segments. Is that's just a human learning type of system. So that's really a good thing. Everybody needs to stand up and stretch every 50 minutes or walk around and just kind of clear their heads. So that's really good advice.
I'm glad that you said that on air and we have that captured. Kettles and pots going on here.
Okay, do as I say, not as I do.
Thanks for that, Jay. I'm using that one.
Oh yeah,
I appreciate that a bunch. Wow.
Well, Jay, this has just been really great because you've filled in a lot of the gaps, and we're going to be talking to you about connecting up with rural America and how we can help connect that up and help our entrepreneurs out there and help our communities build their entrepreneurial economy with that. And because in rural America now the mindset is starting to shift from we need to recruit all these companies, now we need to find the workers for them, to we're just breaking the ice on people and letting communities know that people now are finding a community to live and bringing their job with them. I think that's really one of the big finds out of COVID that we have right now. So we really appreciate your knowledge and now getting to know you a whole bunch better. So we're going to start being connected at the hip here shortly. So we really appreciate it.
So did you want to?
So yeah, how if people have other questions, and so how can people get a hold of you?
Sure, they can find me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn address is right there. My email is just fine, and then the two major websites right now. I've got a lot of projects going, but the jcooper-media.com. I actually have I've been keeping a blog since 2015 of my journey through the entrepreneurial ecosystem of both Iowa and then further out, because I go out to, other than 2020 when coronavirus happened, I go out to Denver Startup Week every fall. I try to hit some other events. I'm in Des Moines when they have events there. So check out the blog there. That's also got a contact page on there as well. And then if you want to get signed up for the Cider Finder beta test app, if you really love cider, you want to be a part of that beta test, go to ciderfinder.co and just plug your email address in there. You'll be on the list, and then you'll get the notification when that goes live.
Wow. And people can see that in the show notes. I put that in the show notes. So just go down to the bottom of the YouTube channel, and all this information is down there. Also, you can connect up there. So Jay, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time. And we appreciate you allowing us to be a small part of Startup Weekend that we had last weekend. So we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us for Startup Weekend. Our teams really appreciated the help, and we loved having you.
Good.
Well,
good.
we look forward to the next time.
Definitely.
So hang on there. We'll be right back with you here. Don't hang up yet.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We have just the coolest people on our show. It's just so much fun. We are so grateful that Jay Cooper joined us this morning and all of the talents that he's bringing to Iowa and to the world. It's just so cool. Those ideas make a big difference. And gosh, the heart that he displayed as he spoke through his mission in life and just his family. It's just wonderful to see the balance that you have, Jay. So very cool.
So keep checking back here at Rural Community Solutions, specifically on the YouTube channel. We're going to keep processing. We're going to keep creating videos for you and shows out of here. It might not be daily. We're going to, because we're getting back going again within business and starting to help more communities. So keep in touch. Go to the YouTube channel at Rural Community Solutions TV YouTube channel. Check those live YouTubes. Check our history. We have more than 200 videos about how your community can help and support entrepreneurship in your rural community. Stay in touch with us on Facebook, because we're going to be starting to go out into communities and showing exactly what's happening out there in rural America as the year progresses. So it might not be every day, but it will be at least 2 or 3 times a week that we will post new things.
So for today, we are so grateful that you have joined us and thrilled we got to introduce Jay Cooper to you. Thanks again, Jay. We hope that you guys have a great weekend. From Rural Community Solutions, Kim Spillers
And Frank Spillers. And
Spillers.
if you can't do the video, check out the podcast at Think Like an Entrepreneur. Become a spark plug at anchor.fm. And until Monday, have a great weekend.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.